Shalom. This is Rabbi Andrew Bloom of Congregation About Shalom here in Fort Worth, Texas. Thank you for joining me. I'm coming today to set the record straight, to correct popular culture and what I consider anti-Semitism. We're going to do this by looking at three things and correcting them. Two have to do with what was on television this past week, one on Saturday Night Live and one on the show Nurses, and something that was in the news, the New York Times, and picked up by other publications as well. And they're very much connected. I first want to deal with the New York Times and the Saturday Night Live because they in essence go together. On Saturday Night Live, there was a script which was basically showing a news report as to the vaccinations in Israel and implying that Israel is only vaccinating its Jewish citizens, which is the farthest from the truth, and I'll get to that in a second. And in the Times saying that Israel is preventing the vaccinations in the West Bank and in Gaza. Well, we have to understand that since the time of the Oslo Accords, right, in 1993, the Palestinian Authority has had complete control, both security-wise, educational-wise, health-wise, and in all other manners within the Palestinian areas. Matter of fact, in 1994, the Palestinian, from the PNA, the Palestinian National Assembly, the Palestinian Health Ministry was formed in order to take care of all those who are in need within the territories there. And when there is something that cannot, special surgery, let's say brain surgery, something like that, that needs to be taken care of, Israel takes in those residents and, of course, treats them because, as we'll see, the saving of a life is the ultimate value in Judaism. There's also another agency, this one a United Nations agency, the UNRWA, United Nations Refugee and Works Agency, that also works within the West Bank and Gaza, helping the health and the treatment of its citizens. Now, since 1994, they have been solely responsible, and thereby the responsibility lies upon them to vaccinate their citizens. In Israel, where approximately 60% of the population has already been vaccinated, as an example to others, there are both Jewish Israelis and Israeli Arabs, right, who are all citizens, and all of them are getting vaccinated, not by who is Jewish and who is Arab, or who is Jewish, who is Muslim, who is Christian. No, it goes, there's an order, everyone is getting vaccinated without prejudice one to the other. Matter of fact, not only that, Israel's seeing that at times the Palestinian Health Authority is not able to fulfill their obligation, just like in the past week, has helped vaccinate over 130,000 people. So the saying, or the trying to throw on Israel the responsibility for what goes on in the PNA is completely wrong, and thereby both SNL and the newspapers need to be condemned for that. And the third thing, as I tied those two together, has to do with the show Nurses on NBC this past week, where it showed that a Orthodox person would not be helped when it comes to a transplant by a woman, an Arab woman, who was offering or this help could come from. And that's the furthest of the truth. The saving of a life is the ultimate value in Judaism. You're allowed to save a life except for in three instances. You're not allowed to murder someone else, you're not allowed to worship idols, and you're not allowed to have immoral family sexual relations. None of this falls here. So even a pig valve, and we know a pig is not kosher, for a heart transplant, a heart graft, is, according to Avi Shafran, who is the head of Agudat Yisrael, the ultra-Orthodox union here in the United States, in all forms of halakha, is permissible because it's saving a life. Same thing, taking or receiving something from someone else, irrespective, just as donating a organ can go to anyone. We don't restrict mitzvot by who they are going to or who they came from. So, and I know NBC, after pressure, had to take this down, but I asked the question, why would it even go up in the first place? There was something on Grey's Anatomy years ago that did the same thing. I don't know why they didn't learn. It would seem to me that in today's society, where we are fighting against hate, rightfully so, when we are fighting against prejudice, rightfully so, when we are fighting for rights of all, rightfully so, that anti-Semitism and anti-Israel, anti-Zionism are the only isms which are still allowed and prosecuted on the right through violence and on the left through culture and through local government and on the campuses. And I say that the way to fight this, the way to counter this, is through knowledge. All of us, whether we be Jewish or non-Jewish, whether we be Israeli, American, English, French, wherever it may be, the way to fight this is to have that knowledge. And when we have that knowledge and we learn, we're able to correct that which needs to be corrected. And this isn't only a Jewish issue. This is a human issue. For if we truly want rights and we truly want to help one another, that means that no group should be left out. Thereby, we must ensure that the newspapers, the shows, actually report what is true and show what is true as well. It is upon all of us to embrace the truth and to push away falsities.